This week on the Media Boss Podcast.
But the older I've gotten, the more I realized, like, that's how you connect with people, is with vulnerability. And that's how you can relate to people. And honestly, like, that's I love that. I love connecting with people, sharing a story. And I want to encourage other people to do the same.
Media Boss Podcast is brought to you by two of our new partners. One is Pantheon. I can't wait to tell you about them later. And brought to you by Convert and Flow. You're going to learn so much about them. But now it's time for the Media Boss Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Media Boss Podcast. I'm Dr. Barrett Matthews. I'm excited to have you here. And you probably already know what I'm going to say, right? You think I'm going to say that I have a fantastic show and I have a fantastic guest, right? You think I'm going to say that? Well, you're right. I am going to say that. I do have a fantastic show and I have a fantastic guest for you. So just sit back, relax, and take notes. Hopefully you'll learn something. Now, for those of you, if you're just tuning into the Media Boss Podcast, you're wondering, what is this podcast about? Well, here's what it is. I've worked in media. I've worked in media for a long time. And one thing I realized is that everybody consumes their information through one form of media or another. And as a business owner, if you are not using all forms of media to reach people, that means you're missing people that could be your clients. So if you have a podcast, but you don't have a book, there may be people out there who want to read their information. If you don't have a streaming TV channel and there are people who love to watch theirs on Roku or something, and you don't have one, you're missing those people. So understand that there are people who want to pay you that listen in a way they want to listen or read in a way they want to read. And if you're not there, you miss them. When you can accomplish all those things, you become a media boss. So that's what this podcast is for. Now, I like to ask all of you right now, make sure you're sharing this, make sure you're subscribing, make sure that you're letting everyone know that you're following the Media Boss Podcast. Now, I start off every episode with something I like to call the Media Minute. Now, what is the Media Minute? The Media Minute is where I take some time to share with you something about media that I've learned, something that you may want to know, something that may help you, one thing or the other, anything, something about media that I want you to take in. Now, today, I want to talk to the podcasters or those of you who are interested in podcasting. One thing I recommend that you do in podcasting is that you find out a little something about your guest. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying get a bio. And the reason I say this is because I hate when people read bios on their podcast, because it sounds like, guess what? They're reading a bio. Well, so what I do, and this is something you may want to do as well, I ask my guests to always just give me a few things about themselves. And then I put it into a sentence. I put it into a paragraph. I put it into an introduction to bring them on. So as you hear me introduce my guest coming up, you'll understand that I'm not reading a bio. But if you want to do it, you do it. But it does sound like you're reading a bio if you do it. So that is the Media Minute. And it's time for me to bring on said guest. So let's do that. My guest today, she is a self-published author. That's right. Some of you don't know about that. I'm telling you, self-publishing is the way to go. She just did it in July of 2022. She self-published her book. She also had a very successful book launch party. I wish I had been invited, but I wasn't. Now, here's the thing. She's been able to land speaking engagements because of all of this. I hope y'all are listening. I hope you're taking notes, because what she has done is she created content and she turned that content into something that could get her into a position to get paid. I want all of you to take note of that. So without any further ado, I want to bring to the Media Boss Podcast none other than Heidy De LaCruz. Heidi, welcome to the Media Boss Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited to have you here, man. I tell all the people I always have great guests. I can't help it if people are fantastic. You bring the heat. You make the show what it is. So thank you so much. Now, let's see. Let's start. Do we start with your podcast or do we start with your book? Let's start with your podcast. Tell us about your podcast.
So my podcast is called The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants. And I sit down with immigrants and ask them about their journey coming to the United States. I ask them about the cultural shocks that they experienced when they first moved here, their first memory, emotions that they had, how they adapted to the culture. And it's just been very interesting to listen to their journeys, their stories, and learn about their culture too.
Wow. Okay. How long have you been doing your podcast?
Since March of this year.
Yes. Oh, brand new. I'm so proud of you. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. So how do you get your guests?
I started with family because my family all immigrated from the Dominican Republic. Yeah. So I started with family, and then I did my next door neighbor who came from Venezuela, and then I've done friends, from different countries. One came from Puerto Rico, and even though Puerto Rico is part of the United States, it's still different. Living in the island, completely different. And lately, it's just been word of mouth. Honestly, people have been recommending other people to be on the podcast, which I absolutely love. And also, I've joined a few podcasting Facebook groups, so I've been getting a few guests from there. Yeah.
And I got a recommendation for you. It's a gentleman who's from Haiti.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely have someone. That is so cool. So I have to ask you, what would you say, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, what would you say, you can tell I don't do scripted interviews. What would you say is the most interesting story you've heard from somebody?
Oh, the most interesting story has definitely been the episode with Dali from Nicaragua. Okay. She came when she was, I can't remember how old she was, but she was young with her mother, and they came through the border. So she remembers going through the desert. She remembers being on a train. Wow. She remembers, and then when they got here, her mother had some paperwork, and once they reviewed the paperwork, they were like, "You're not supposed to be in this detention center." So, they had, valid paperwork. They didn't have to go through the border, but with the ignorance, her mom didn't know. Yeah. So her episode, I split into two because I try to keep my episodes 30 minutes, but her story was just so touching and just very impactful. So I was like, no, I got to keep all of this, it was very good, but definitely check out that episode. And then she also does anti-bullying prevention courses for parents. So yeah, very interesting.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. So let me ask you, as far as your podcast is concerned, what type of trials or tribulations have you had as far as just learning the podcast and all that?
Technology not working the way it should be working has been the biggest challenge. Just last week, I don't know, I host on Anchor. And I don't know if Anchor was having technical issues, but the link for my guest to come on was not working. And so I tried through the iPad, I tried through my computer, I tried all different ways to send her the link. And then I even tried it from my husband's phone, and it just kept loading and it wasn't working. So I was like, you know what? And then we ended up using Riverside. But when I listened back to the episode, there was a lot of feedback and echo, and it kind of recorded, she would talk and then I was talking over. It was a mess. So I messaged her and I was like, you know what? Unfortunately, we're going to have to re-record because I can't use it. And I felt so bad.
Yeah. And we all have those. And I'm saying that for those people who are a little apprehensive about doing a podcast. We all go through stuff.
Yes.
And it's okay. The world didn't end. Okay.
But my favorite, sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine. Please.
One is actually my very first episode. So if anybody is apprehended to start, listen to my first episode. It was with my cousin. Okay. And I had connected the mic, but I didn't have headphones. And I was doing it on my phone. And so she could hear me, but I couldn't hear her. So you legit hear us in the beginning of the episode, hello? Can you hear me? I can hear. Wait, are you there? So I was going to edit that out. And then when I listened back to it, I was like, oh my God, no, this is great. This is great content. And I've gotten so many compliments on that people laugh. They loved it. They were like, oh my gosh, thank you for keeping that in the episode. And then also it can help people like this who are scared to do it. It's I made my first mistake in my very first episode and people loved it.
Thank you so much for saying that, Heidi. I always tell people, don't be perfect. Because no one wants you to be perfect. They want to know you're human, because that means they can relate to you because they're human.
Yeah, no, I make mistakes all the time. Just today, I uploaded a reel. I was reading from my poetry book and I messed up the poem, but I was like halfway through my video. I was like, I'm not going to start all over. I was like, you know what? Forget it. And I uploaded
I'm
it
the
like
same way. I always say I'm Mr. One Take.
Yes. I was like, you know what? I always promise my audience to be my authentic self, and that's what I give you.
And it's funny. I just interviewed someone recently, and during the episode, it was so funny. I don't know if it was her father or someone just came walk right behind her. Well,
We don't live alone.
I said, hey, it looks like someone working on your set. It's okay. It's all right. And then her baby kept calling for her, and then came up to her and relaxed. I said, and she's like, I'm so sorry. I said, no, we're leaving that in. I said, we're leaving it in. I said,
thank you for doing that.
Yeah. It shows you're a real person. It's okay.
Exactly. No, thank you. Because as a mother myself, like, you get nervous. It's like, okay, are they kids? Like, I tell my kids, like, I'm going to do a podcast. You need to be quiet. But my baby's 9 months old, so it's like, you'll hear him in the back of my videos or things like that. And it's like, I can't control that. I'm a mom, but I'm also doing what I love to do,
I mean, the hardest part was for me not to laugh. I mean, because I thought it was hilarious. I was just trying not to laugh in the middle of it, but I thought it was cool. I didn't find a problem with it at all. And these things happen, and it allows you to capture a different group of people. See, one thing I tell people is, and that's why I do a video and audio podcast, is because the people that watch the video are not the same people that listen to the audio, and vice versa. Which means those are two separate audiences I'm capturing.
Okay.
And I tell that to people because when you're trying to get yourself out there in media, you want to capture as many people as you can, because you don't know which ones are the ones that want to hire you to do some business or something. Like, I love the fact, and we're going to talk about your book in a minute. I love the fact that you got a speaking gig. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
No, because like I wrote my first book in 2013. Okay. I am literally teaching 4 classes this month, all based on that book.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I wrote in 2013. And that's the thing. Yeah. People talk about, is it a bestseller? I don't care if it's a bestseller. If it's still making me money, I don't care about a title or an accolade. I want to know that it's making me money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm like really, really happy about that. So, okay, I gotta. Did you ever worry about running out of guests or content?
I mean, there's a lot of immigrants in the United States.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as finding them.
Honestly, no, I have not, because I'm actually pretty booked up and I just keep getting more people. So I haven't even thought about what would happen if it slowed down. I reach out to people actually myself, which has actually been new for me, I don't really, I wouldn't really engage in that. But then when I notice this person mentioned that they're an immigrant or that they came to the United States, so then I'll message, it's like, hey, this is my podcast, listen to a few episodes. This is what I'm trying to do with this podcast. Yeah. If you're interested in sharing your journey. And honestly, every single guest that has been on, they've been so thankful for this content.
I can imagine.
They're like, thank you for providing the safe space for us to share our journey and story. Because I don't know if there's another podcast like this out there that's specific for immigration stories.
I have to tell you, when I saw what your podcast was about, I knew I wanted you on my podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Because I love that topic. I mean, I don't know that anyone else has it or not, but it's unique in your own right. So I love that, and I appreciate it.
And what I want to do is help change the narrative that there is out there. I know
that. You didn't have to tell me that. I already knew it.
Yeah, because it's like the best way is just listening to someone's journey.
There's some powerful stories.
Yes, and honestly, the other people that I've interviewed are business owners, are authors, are making a living, thriving off this country. The opportunities
you and I are going to talk. We're going to talk further.
Okay.
I'm serious, because I'm seeing some documentaries.
Really?
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
yes.
we have to talk because someone else, oh man, I'm gonna goosebumps. Someone else told me that. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to talk because I have to tell you
we're going to. It's done. It's already. Oh, I can see this. I mean, but anyway, I mean, I even see TV shows on this because it's.
That's what I got. That's what I got. Somebody said that God was speaking to them like right in this moment because I'm in a group right now where I'm collaborating on a devotional. So I'm going to be in a book. It should be published in December if everything goes according to time. And so we were doing a author meeting, and she told me, she was like, Heidi, I'm getting a sense God is telling me that there's something that you're doing in media. I don't know if you're doing it right now, but God is sensing or telling me that it's going to be a production. I think it's going to be into a big production, whether TV or radio.
If I can, I'd love to be a part of it. I'm serious. I think I see something for you. Yeah.
I mean, the more people, that's the thing. Like the more people that like are for this movement that I'm doing, I'm willing to collaborate and work with.
I love it.
One of the guests, that was on, she told me like, I'm going to pray for your ministry because it's such an important message. And, that she really appreciates about this just because when she came from India, she felt very out of place, and especially in a Christian church, right? Because a lot of people think that Christianity is just a Western religion, which is a whole different
they do.
topic. So
when Christ was never here, it's kind of funny. But anyway.
Okay, exactly. So she came from India. She was born Christian. She grew up in a Christian church in India, and when she came, she felt very out of place and didn't feel included at all in a church. And it's like, as Christ followers, that's how we're supposed to feel. How do people feel welcome? Yeah, bring them in and everything. And so she was just very, very thankful to have the platform and to share her story. And she wrote a book also. So it's just been very, very powerful. The people who I'm connecting with and things like that.
That is fantastic. So I got to hear about the book you just published.
Oh yes. Okay. My poetry book is called Words from the Heart, and it goes through pretty much the darkest period of my life that I went through in the beginning of my 20s. It was, depression, anxiety, being in a toxic relationship, losing my mother. She died when I was 23. And so writing has always been an outlet for me. I've always journaled, always wrote poetry. I write my prayers. So these poems are poems that I wrote during the period and then after, like during the healing. So that's what it goes through. It goes through like the dark period and then the healing and then the outcome of it, right? The rainbow and everything. And so, so it's just a book to help connect people, like if you're going through a dark period, it's like, I've been there too, and things like that. And just the feedback. I always say with my writing, with everything that I do, I just want to connect with one person. Right. As long as I connect with one person, that's it. It accomplished it. And just from the people who agreed to read it and give me a review on it, it did that. Like there was just one review that was like, man, anybody who's human, who has been through a trial or challenging moment will be able to relate to this. And a lot of people have told me that they are able to feel the emotions that I'm talking about and everything. So it's just been like, wow, God, you are working, like this is exactly what I wanted it to do. And it's already done it. Like you said, I don't care about being the best time seller or anything like that. It's already accomplished my goal with the book,
That's wonderful. So, that is wonderful. And I told y'all I have a wonderful guest here. And we're going to continue with this wonderful guest. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back with Heidy De LaCruz right here on the Media Boss Podcast. And stay right where you are. How are you going to learn everything you need to know about starting a podcast? Well, at the Create Your Podcast Weekend, we put it all in 2 days and help you get your podcast going by next week. That's right. By next week, all you have to do is come to the Create Your Podcast Weekend and let us show you how to get your podcast up and running. We will show you how to attract listeners. We will show you how to get people to pay you for your products and services. What products and services? The products and services we show you you how to create, all at the Create Your Podcast Weekend. All you have to do is go to createyourpodcastweekend.com and get registered today. And we have special bonuses. Some of you will even get us to give you the equipment to start your podcast. That's right. We're going to give some of you the podcasting equipment to get started. Go to createyourpodcastweekend.com. That's createyourpodcastweekend.com and get started on your podcast by next week. Starting a podcast can be a daunting task. There's a lot that goes into it, and you're probably wondering if you're able to handle it. Well, why don't you just take 2 days and let us teach you how to do it at the Create Your Podcast Weekend. That's right. We're going to show you all the aspects of how to start your podcast, how to keep your podcast going, how to attract listeners, and how to make money with your podcast. CreateYourPodcastWeekend.com. Get registered right now. Do you have a podcast? Would you like to have it heard by more and more people? Well, Pantheon is the way to go. Unlock the right mindset and tactics with our program. Create momentum with repurposed content. Get paid to build your business. And with Pantheon, we'll even show you how to have a team around you that gives you a community of encouragement. Check out Pantheon today.
You and me together, we could be anything.
Hey guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Pantheon. Man, let me tell you, the Media Boss podcast is so successful right now, partly because of the work that we put in with our new partner, Pantheon. They have helped us to grow our listenership. Our downloads for our podcast have increased substantially over just the last 4 to 6 months because of our partnership with Pantheon. Let me tell you, they have made it so that we can do our work in creating great content for you guys while they help us to grow. They work tirelessly behind the scenes, making it so people are more interested in what we're putting out as far as the podcast. They put systems in place. They do training. They show us how to attract more people, and they're making it happen for us. Look, if you guys want to learn more about how to do that for yourselves or for your podcast, I suggest that you get together with the people at Pantheon. I'll set up a meeting myself with them so you can do that. Connect with me, and let's find out how you can get going with Pantheon yourself for you and your podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Media Boss Podcast. I am Dr. Barrett Matthews, and we are finishing up our interview here with Heidy De LaCruz. Heidi is telling us about her new poetry book. And Heidi, I want to ask, how long have you been writing poetry?
I started in 7th grade.
Wow. And yeah, by the way, you mentioned about starting in your 20s. I thought you were still in your 20s. So
I am. I'm 29.
Okay. You said when I was in my 20s. I'm like, okay.
Oh, I meant early 20s.
Okay.
You know when you're thinking you said something, but then you said something else.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I can tell you're from the Dominican because you still look at those young looks. So that's good.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. So you started in 7th grade, and so when you were writing your poetry, because I'm curious about this. Mm-hmm. Did you have people that you showed it to then? Did people encourage you to keep writing poetry, or was this something you just did in secret?
I shared it with one person.
Okay.
And that was a friend of mine in 7th grade. I had a notebook and I would just write and write and write. And I would I started and I kept it to myself and I shared it with her. And she was like, Heidi, these are really good. And I was like, what? No. She's like, no, these are really good. And there was a few years where I had stopped writing, life got busy and everything. I get it. And then I started, again. But those I kept to myself until I decided to publish my book. I started sharing a little bit of poetry on my blog in 2017, 2018. I started sharing a little bit. But it's very hard to be vulnerable,
Yeah, of course.
And so it's like, okay, do I want to share this? Do I not? But the older I've gotten, the more I've realized, like, that's how you connect with people, is with vulnerability. And that's how you can relate to people. And honestly, like, I love that. I love connecting with people, sharing the story. And I want to encourage other people to do the same. Obviously in your own time, like, do it in your own time, your own. But yeah, so that's, it was hard to get over that. And especially when I announced my book, like, I remember being so nervous. I was like, okay, like, it's out there. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know, like, the reaction that I'm going to get. But honestly, it was just such a positive feedback. And that one friend that I shared the poetry book from 7th grade, we're still in contact on Facebook. And she shared it with our alumni high school page. She shared it on her page. She emailed the principal of the high school we graduated from to tell her. There was a teacher that contacted me and was like, hey, your friend sent me and told me that you wrote a book. And she was able to get it in the library of my hometown. Like, she did all that. Yes.
That's a friend. That's a good friend.
Yeah. So I mailed her a book. I was like, you know what? Like, here's, my gift to you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like, I cried when she told me, like, it was getting into the library. I have the picture she sent me and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah.
That is, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, Heidi, before I let you go, I want to give you an opportunity to let everyone know anything that they can support you in or whatever you're doing.
Listen to the podcast. Honestly, it's what I'm really, really focusing on right now. Just trying to spread the word. If anybody knows any guests that would benefit or would want to share their immigration story, send them my way. Just supporting by listening and sharing, just spreading it to as many people as I can.
And the name of the podcast?
The American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants.
I love that. And the name of your book?
Words from the Heart.
All right. Fantastic. Heidi, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Media Boss podcast. And, me and you have some talking to do.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Guys, Heidy De LaCruz, make sure you support her. Make sure you subscribe to her podcast and make sure you share that as well. As far as this podcast is concerned, I have something for you guys. If you're brand new, I want to help you guys get more clients. Not just more clients, more paying clients. How'd you like that? Well, here's what I have for you. My complimentary gift for you. www.5waystoPayingClients.com. Go to 5waystoPayingClients.com, the number 5. And just go there. It's my free training for you, for me to you, my gift to you. Now, we get out of here on the Media Boss podcast a little differently than other podcasts. Yeah, a little different. Those of you, you know what I'm talking about. Well, we're going to go over that as soon as we come back from this break. So stay right where you are. But here's the thing. When you come back, I have a way for you. That's right, for you to win a prize. You like that? I have a way for you to win a prize. So just stay right where you are. We'll be right back with more of the Media Boss podcast. Let's face it, you've been talking about starting a podcast for quite some time, but you haven't started yet. Why is that? Could it be that you just don't have the time because your day-to-day keeps you so busy? Or could it be that you don't want to learn all the technical aspects that go into putting together a quality podcast? Well, at Media Boss Club, we take care of that for you. How would you like to have a done-for-you experience? That's right. At Media Boss Club, we build your podcast for you. We will edit your podcast. We will put in the music for you. We even put in commercial breaks that you can put your advertisers in. We will take care of all of the uploading to the great podcast platforms that are out there. That's right. We do everything. All you have to do is just right now go to MediaBossClub.com. That's MediaBossClub.com and let us handle the heavy lifting for you. It's time to be a boss, a media boss. If you're in business for yourself, it's time that you get your message out, and podcasting is the best way to do it. Let us create a done-for-you podcast experience with Media Boss Club. All you have to do is go to MediaBossClub.com, and we'll create a done-for-you podcast right now. That's MediaBossClub.com. Do you have a podcast? Would you like to have it heard by more and more people? Well, Pantheon is the way to go. Unlock the right mindset and tactics with our program. Create momentum with repurposed content. Get paid to build your business. And with Pantheon, we'll even show you how to have a team around you that gives you a community of encouragement. Check out Pantheon today.
You and me together, we could be anything.
Hey everybody, the Media Boss Podcast has been brought to you by our partners, Pantheon and Convert and Flow. Make sure you get with us so you can find out more about how you can help your business run smoothly with Pantheon and Convert and Flow. Welcome back to the Media Boss Podcast. I'm Dr. Barrett Matthews, and man, was Heidi fantastic or what? Guess what, guys? She's here for you guys, so I'm telling you, if you guys want to support her podcast, I strongly suggest you do it. And get her book, man. You want to read some good poetry, get her book as well. Well, for those of you here, guess what? That's right. I've got something for you. Well, first of all, I want to tell you guys this. I appreciate you guys just being a part of the Media Boss Podcast. So I want to show you some love. So what I want you to do is go to our Patreon account. Go to patreon.com/Media Boss Podcast. Show us some love if you like the show. And we got something for you, some special prizes for you just for supporting the show. Also, for those of you who were listening earlier, I gave you guys a free gift. And that gift was my training, 5 ways to payingclients.com. Go to 5ways-to-payingclients.com and you're going to get my free gift from me to you. Now, for those of you who are really serious about being a media boss, you heard Heidi talking about that. She's on her way to being a media boss. Well, I want you to be a media boss too. I'm doing a Make Money from Media Challenge. That's right, Make Money from Media Challenge. I'm going to show you how to incorporate all forms of media in your business. It's a 5-day challenge. It's not all day. It's a couple hours each day. Now, I strongly suggest for those of you who are coming on to come in as a VIP. VIPs get a little bit more training. They get gifts. They get all types of things. And they also get to ask live questions on this challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. Go to www.makemoneyfrommediachallenge.com. How simple is that? To Make Money from Media Challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. Get signed up right now. Also, if you want to have a podcast, I can help you get a podcast going. I can also help you get it done for you. Go text the word podcast to 929-244-4323. Text podcast to 929-244-4323. And last but not least, make sure you all are subscribing to the Media Boss Podcast, sharing the Media Boss Podcast. And for those of you, I mentioned this earlier, if you leave us a good review and a good rating, and you screenshot that and go to our Facebook Media Boss Club, and you leave us a picture of that, I'm going to give you a $100 hotel discount card that you can use anywhere in the country. So go ahead and do that, and I will send you a hotel discount card for $100 you can use anywhere in the country just for leaving us a positive review. So we thank you so much for that. Now, how do we get out of here on the Media Boss Podcast? Well, there's only one way we do it. I don't know how y'all do it, but we do it a special way here at the Media Boss Podcast. For those of you who know, you know. So we're going to count down from 3, 2, 1. Media Boss, out.